I'm back. So if you have this story at home in your reading street book, you can actually open up to page 158. And if you don't have your book, don't worry, okay? Just follow along, and I hope you enjoy Firefighter by Angela Royston. Again, the genre is narrative nonfiction. And as I'm reading, I want you to think about this question, okay? How hard is a firefighter's job? Oh, and as we are reading, you'll learn about all the difficult things they have to do. My dad was a firefighter for a very long time. Super brave, okay? All right, here we go. Firefighter. Get comfy, guys. It is busy at the fire station, even when there is no fire. Liz is checking the hoses. She wants to make sure they screw tightly to the truck. Dan is polishing the fire truck wheels. Anthony is upstairs in the kitchen looking for a snack. He is always hungry. Suddenly, a loud noise makes him jump. Ring, ring, ring. Guys, do you see how the author did that? How the word ring is in red letters, and the font, the letters are larger, and there's an exclamation mark at the end. So that way I know as a reader, when I'm reading the words ring, 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 I say them with extra emotion and maybe a little louder, okay? It is the fire alarm. Anthony slides down the pole. Thud. He lands hard, but the thick rubber pad on the ground cushions his feet. And this is what they're talking about. So when he comes down, there's a thick rubber pad to kind of cushion him so he doesn't get hurt. Liz jumps into her boots and pulls up her fireproof pants. She checks the computer. It shows the fire is at 7 Oak Lane. In the truck, Liz grabs the walkie-talkie. Chief Miller, we're on our way. Right, says the fire chief. He has gone ahead in a special fast car. I'll meet you there. Liz starts the engine as the firefighters jump in. She flips on the sirens and the lights and drives out of the firehouse. The truck speeds toward the fire. Cars and buses stop and wait when they hear the siren coming. Have you ever been in the car with a family member or someone and you've heard a siren either from a fire truck or a police car and your parents stop driving and they have to pull to the side? Think about that. Why do you think when you hear that siren that the car has to stop and pull over to the side? Think about that. The fire chief calls Liz. I'm at the fire scene. It's an old house that's been empty for years. But someone saw a young boy playing on the porch this morning. He might be inside the house. Tell Dan and Anthony to get their air tanks ready. And remember, who are Dan and Anthony? In this story, they're firefighters, right? So he's telling them, tell them to get their masks ready. Okay, Chief, says Liz. I can see the smoke from here. We'll be there in 2 minutes. Liz turns the corner into Oak Lane. Flames cover the top of the house. The fire is spreading quickly. There's no time to lose. Liz hooks a hose from the truck to the nearest fire hydrant. A pump on the truck pulls water from the hydrant to another hose. Liz and another firefighter point the hose at the flames. Ready, calls Liz. Whoosh. They hold on tight as the water shoots out. It comes out of a fire hose hard enough to knock a person down. So that's how strong the pressure is from the fire hose. The water's pushing out so hard that if you were standing in front of that fire hose, it could knock you down, guys. True story. Anthony and Dan are ready to search the building burning. The burning building. They have put on their air tanks and face masks. Each tank holds 40 minutes of air. That's not much time. Guys, 40 minutes is about the time that you have when you're at school for lunch and recess all together. So that's all the time that the firefighters have to actually go into the building to search for that boy and come out. Because then after that, the mask that they're wearing will not give them any more air. The boy's name is Luke, the chief tells them. Right, says Anthony. He grabs a hose. Let's put the wet stuff on the red stuff, says Dan. Dan and Anthony run to the back of the house. The fire is not as bad here. Dan feels the back door. If it is hot, flames could leap out. It's cold, says Dan. They step inside. Thick, black smoke is everywhere. Anthony shines his flashlight around Luke. Luke! Luke! He calls. No one answers. I can hear fire upstairs, says Dan. The fire has damaged the staircase. It could fall down at any time. They climb the steps very slowly. Outside, the outriggers are set down on the ground. Outriggers are like legs. They keep the truck steady as the ladder is raised. The ladder goes up like a telescope to the top of the house. A hose runs up the side. The firefighter on the ladder shoots water down on the fire. The flames crackle and hiss. They get smaller, then suddenly jump even higher. Inside the house, the fire rages. It is hot enough to melt glass. Anthony sprays water on the flames. Fire has made the house weak. It could come down any second, says Dan. We must find Luke. And remember, guys, who's Luke? Luke's the little boy that Dan and Anthony are going in the house to search for. Boom! A beam crashes down near them, but their helmets protect their heads. Crash! Quick, says Anthony. We're running out of time. They come to another door, but it will not open. Dan swings his axe at the door. Once, twice, 3 times. It's jammed, shouts Dan. And they're saying the door's jammed. What do you think it means if they're saying the door is jammed? Yeah, it's stuck. They can't open it. The roar of the fire is so loud, they can hardly hear. We'll have to use the electric saw. And a saw is a kind of tool that can be used to cut, right? It can cut wood or other things. And so they're not able to open the door, so now they're going to have to use the saw to get the door open. Anthony switches on the saw. Woo! He cuts a hole in the door big enough to climb through. Luke, calls Dan. Luke? But the room is empty. Suddenly, the chief calls, Get out now! The roof is coming down! Dan and Anthony race downstairs. They get out just as the roof falls in. We didn't find Luke, yells Dan. He's okay, says the chief. We just found him up the block. Whew, says Dan. Good news. Hours later, the flames are out. Anthony sprays water on the parts still glowing red. He is tired and dirty and very hungry. Liz winds the hoses back up to the truck. Finally, she rests. She is tired too. Back at the station, Anthony sits down to eat. At last, he says. Suddenly, a loud noise makes him jump. Dinner will have to wait, laughs Dan. Ring! Let's say it together 3 times. Ring. Ready? Ring! 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 So, this was the story of Firefighter, and I don't own the rights to this story. I'm reading it for educational purposes only. So what I'd like you, ladies and gentlemen, to think about now is thinking about if there were to be a fire in your home, do you have a plan with your family? Would you know what to do? So in my home, we have a plan in our family where if there were to be a fire in our house, that to make sure we know where everyone is, we have a special meeting spot on our block across the street at a neighbor's house. So if there were to be a fire, where Mrs. Villa would know where to find Danny and Rosemary and Mr. Villa. And we've talked about, just like in the story, how do you know which doors are safe to open, which doors are not, and different things like that. So I think that would be a really great idea for you to talk about with your families, and also to think about a firefighter and how brave they are, how brave firefighters are. And that question in the beginning we talked about said, how hard is a firefighter's job? And we learned from this story it's pretty difficult, okay? So I challenge you to, after listening to this story, to write 1 paragraph, which is 5 sentences, saying and telling how hard a firefighter's job is. So you would just need to give 5 telling sentences about why a firefighter's job is so hard. And think about the story and the different things that they had to do, okay? And remember, all you're trying is what? Trying your best, okay? And don't forget to start all sentences with an uppercase letter, to use finger spaces between your words, and to end with a period or an exclamation mark. Or if you had a question you were going to use, you could even use a question mark, okay? All right, guys, I love you, and I look forward to reading to you soon, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.